Welcome to New and In Between, hosted by me, Mia Quinn Maddox, where I'll be discussing the hows and whys to my journey towards my faith. I've learned through my highs and lows that this path is not mine to travel alone. Join me mid journey as I embrace my wins, losses, and everything in between. Hello, everyone, and welcome to New and In Between. I'm your host, Mia Quinn Maddox, and today, as we are in our Golden Series, today I have the honor of having Nurse Noel, Anthea Noel, who is the cousin of a really, really great friend of mine, Aisha, and we connected a few months ago. I did a vision board party and she attended, and that's how we connected. And she is super dope. And the more I learn about her, the more I'm so impressed that I'm like, oh, yes, God, thank you. Another one. Okay, because I've been praying for like oiled friends and for amazing people and for them to be entered into my life. And this is just an answer to my prayers. So thank you, Anthea, for your time and coming. And I'm excited. I'm so excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for having me. This is amazing. This is pretty dope, so I'm happy.
Thank you, thank you. So we have recently met within the last couple of months through your cousin Aisha, who is my dear friend. Long story short, she is an amazing hairstylist who I met so many years through another amazing hairstylist, Q, and we have become friends and fam. She does my mother's hair when she comes to New York. She does my sister's hair, my hair. She's just an amazing person all around. So she, being that amazing person, connected me to this amazing person. So Anthea, tell us who is Anthea.
Oh my goodness, there's so many parts of it. So many parts. You have Nurse Noel, which is my brand, and then you have Anthea, which is pretty much the little little black girl who's still, have a lot of fear, a lot of issues that I'm working through. And then you have Noel the nurse, who is a nurse. I am a registered nurse by profession.
How long have you been a nurse?
Oh my goodness, it'll be 26 years this year.
Wow.
October is 26 years.
That's a long time.
I started when I was 2. I started when I was 2.
Won't he do it?
My mom was a nurse, so I love nursing. Aisha's mom is a nurse, my cousin Aisha. I saw so many great women as nurses, and that was something that they did as immigrants from Trinidad. In the West Indies. They came over and they were nurses in Trinidad, and they came over. They were nurses. And I saw that, those white uniforms, those crisp white skirts and the shoes. And I was like, I want to be like that. I want to do that. So I did. And here I am. And then it just morphed. It morphed into entertainment and sports and media.
So I know we've had a few conversations as I learned things about you. I mean, I learned that you wrote a book. Before there was all the social media stuff, there used to be blogs. You wrote for blogs. I mean, you're a writer.
I'm a writer.
You opened a Def Comedy Jam.
Oh
She
my gosh.
opened a Def Comedy Jam. She's a poet. I mean, there's so many amazing things. So tell me about the Def Comedy Jam, like you and being a poet and just that. That's amazing.
I grew up a little black girl in the 80s, 70s, 80s. I just didn't want to be seen. So, but I always had something to say. I always wanted to say something, but I just didn't want to be seen because we were pretty much muted. We were muted as, little brown girls. If you didn't look a certain way, if you didn't have Eurocentric features, you weren't pretty. So I started writing. And I started writing poetry because I had a lot of feelings I needed to get out. And at the age of 12, my mom took me to therapy, right? My father died, and she was like, we're going to therapy. Upper West Side, Central Park West. I went to therapy, and, I tuned into my skills of writing from therapy. So I started writing, and a friend of mine, Will, who's a comedian, they were like, yo, you know what? we're going to put you on the stage, give you $25 and you're going to do poetry. And it started at Caroline's on Broadway. Bob Sumner, the producer for Def Comedy Jam. And I got my $25. What people didn't know was the comedians got 50. So like we were all broke. And I said $25 is enough to fill my tank and fill my belly and I'm good. So I did that. And then we did the Boston Comedy Club on Sunday nights in the Village. And yeah, we did the off season for Def Comedy Jam. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
I could only imagine. Like,
it was amazing.
I mean, my sister gets me into a lot of the, the comedy specials that are on Netflix and different comedians. Comedy is something else. Like it is. So
It's
I could only imagine you just in the back with all this funny, like just the dozens and everyone going at each other.
Everything's a joke. A lot of competition, but a lot of brotherhood too. I worked with Dave Chappelle before he was Dave Chappelle. He was on stage. Tracy Morgan, Mike Epps, Mike Yard. Talent. So we all were like a little family. And the only thing is that I was not good. Let me keep it a buck. I wasn't good. My poetry was good, but my delivery was bad. And I didn't know how, because I wanted to be heard, not seen. Remember the little black girl? And it was just so like, all right, so you know what? Mike Epps came up to me and he says, Anthea, you suck. Like you need to stick to writing. You need to get off the stage or you need to take classes. And, that stuck with me. Like, that I was like, wow, I never had somebody that was that frank. And, you already have insecurities about being a little black girl. Not only was I a little brown girl, I went to church on Saturdays. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. My parents did not talk like the other parents. We didn't eat the same foods as the other kids. So it was always, there was a big spotlight that was on me for being different. And so I took all those insecurities and I actually stopped performing after he told me that, and I stopped performing.
So when you performed, were you already working as a nurse?
I was a nurse since I was 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is nursing? Like, I will do anything for anyone. I love to serve people. I love to help, but not in that way. If you are sick, I will drop the medicine off, but I'm not cleaning you up. If you have surgery, I will try to be there for you, but I'm not going to be that good. My hand is going to shake. Something might pull. I'm just not the one to call. My sister's that one. Bodily fluids and stuff like that. You're in good hands. Call Lauren. Mia, I might throw up on you. And that's just, I'm just honest. So and you've been a nurse for so long. How is nursing?
You get desensitized, to be honest with you. I mean, you can't really take things home with you. And having examples like my Aunt Myrtle, like my Aunt Claudette, my mother, just seeing them not only be a nurse in the hospital, but be a nurse to us. Nursing is not something, I always tell people, nursing is not something that I do, it's who I am. So I'm going to be that nurturing, like, oh, let me do this, let me do that. Blood, vomit, shit, that doesn't really get to me because it's everything that, that I do, like I have. So it's not really a problem, but I love nursing. Does nursing love me? Not all the time, but, I love it. And it's actually given me an opportunity to do so many other things, So
there's been some other roads. What roads has nursing taken you to?
Media. First writing. I told you I was I wrote for Yandy Smith's magazine, Everything Girls Love. That was the first project that I worked on. And then Tanya Lewis Lee, Healthy You Now, her magazine. And then that turned to O Magazine. And from O Magazine, I did Dr. Oz, the Dr. Oz show, for 7 seasons.
And what did you do on Dr. Oz?
I was his right-hand on-air person. Like, what do you think, Nurse Noel? Oh, you know what? I love this. Maybe we should, it was just me being on air.
You said, as growing up, you said you were the little black girl and you went through the trials and tribulations of that. To being on camera, how was that? Like, what was the mindset? What was the transition? How did you feel? Were you confident? What was your experience when those cameras came on?
I went back to hearing Mike Epps tell me, Anthea, you suck on stage. I went back to that and I was just like, I don't want to do this. I didn't try out for it. I didn't go for it. A friend of mine was a producer and she was a producer on the show and she said, you know what, you're a nurse. We need a nurse. We need somebody to come on and a health professional to talk about their problems. So it was an emotional eating segment and I am an emotional eater, okay? I love sweets. When I'm stressed, I eat. When I'm happy, I eat. When I'm mad, I eat. Like, so it was just, I have like this love-hate relationship with food. And I said, okay, I'll tell my story. And that one episode turned into 82 episodes. So it just morphed into like something bigger. I didn't want to at first. That wasn't my goal. I didn't want to be seen. I wanted to be heard, you know. That was
But
my
now
mindset.
you're really being seen.
National television, syndicated, and it was just like, okay, if this is where God wants me to be, then this is where I'm going to be.
How important is your faith in being in nursing and being in entertainment? Because you said you had to desensitize yourself. In desensitizing yourself, does that turn your feelings off? Like, does that turn your empathy off? To desensitize means you don't feel anything. So how does that work? And then, you know, now you're in front of the camera. How does that work?
So every day, like you go in the hospital, you pray. Like I pray, right? So my mother always told me, before you step on that unit, you pray. Not only pray for yourself, that you stay away from harm and danger, but you also pray for your patient. Because there's a lot of violence in healthcare. I'm opening up a whole Pandora's box, right? There's a lot of violence. Patients attack nurses and doctors. Family members, I've been attacked by family members. Nurses get stuck by needles. Like, it's just so much that you just have to keep, you know, that shield, and you have to keep that, you know, God, keep your armor around me. But also you have to pray like emotionally, because my first patient, I was 22 years old, and it was a hospice patient, cancer patient. I cried for a month. I stayed in the bed. I called out sick. I didn't go to work. I was just like, I can't do this. I don't, you know, when he died, it was just horrible. And I was like, I can't, if this is this going to be my life? I want to go work at Neiman Marcus, like for real, like real talk. But you desensitizing doesn't mean that you cut off all your feelings. It just means that you kind of have a tunnel vision, and you see what you have to do, when you have to do, how you have to do it, and you just do it. You just go in go mode. And so that's what it was. Moving from that to television, it was a little lighthearted. It wasn't like heavy hitting news. It wasn't like, you know, 2020 or anything. It was just like, okay, you know, what are the dangers of wearing high heels, or, you know, putting avocado as a superfood. It was very light health topics, so that helped a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fun.
that's cool.
And then that turned into radio. I started doing Hot 97 and The Breakfast Club. So that was cool, because I was able to talk to people who look like me, right? I started off, well, me and my cousin Aisha, we used to be little hot girls. We used to be out in the streets, always partying, always on top of somebody's table dancing.
It's all right.
Right?
It's the story of us all.
You know,
listen,
dancing.
It was our era. We partied. We partied and we clubbed. Like, people who live in New York now who think they're partying and clubbing have no idea. Partying and clubbing in our time, it doesn't seem so close, but it's kind of far. But we partied.
Come
We had a
through,
good time. There was
Justins.
no phones. There was nobody catching you to
Nope.
put you on Instagram. We partied. We stood on couches. We stood on tables. We danced. We drank. We had a good old time. So I was a party girl too. Me and my sister was just talking about that. I was in them streets.
Yes, we every day it was like, okay, what are we doing Monday night, Tuesday night? Okay, what do we Wednesday night we're going to here, Tuesday night we're going to Justin's, we're going to the tunnel on this night, we doing this, and we, you know, and then getting up and working at
We
6 o'clock in
partied
the morning.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday and Saturday was for Bridge and Tunnel, and you didn't come out. Those were the
No.
days that you rested.
Hello?
But Sunday I was at Mansion, I was at Pink Elephant, I was at wherever the party was. No, it was Pink Elephant on Sundays or Greenhouse. But you knew Sunday through Thursday you partied. If you had an early call time, you were up. And most of my friends were all like were professionals in other things. So we had HR and we had this person. So they're getting up to have to be to work at 9 and having to go take care of their kids. My sister had her son, so it's like everybody was going, but we were out. Okay, so I get it. We partied. You guys don't know what partying is. We partied.
Yes, the good old days. But to be around that environment, and then to be like on the Breakfast Club talking about stroke and the dangers of MDMA, which AKA Molly, and talking about perks and all that stuff. You know, to talk to that demographic, it was just like, wow, this is the people that I partied with. And these are their kids. So it's kind of like it was fulfilling. I loved it. I loved being able to spread the health message in a not so uptight way, you know?
Yeah.
So that was cool. And also using my personal journey, my health journeys, because I was never shy to talk about what I went through. You know, I'm a sexual assault survivor. I'm a colon cancer survivor. You know, I'm very passionate about heart health because I had to do CPR on my mother who died. So it's just like I tell people, I tell my story all over. Whoever wants to listen, whoever doesn't want to listen, you're going to get it anyway. So
I mean, those are all parts of your story, of your plan. If you didn't have those skills and those, and you wouldn't have been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's so many things. We don't realize why things happen when they happen until later on when you're going through something else. You're like, oh, okay, now I see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now I get it. This trauma allowed me to help somebody else.
Yep.
We don't realize that at the time until you really get to sit down and reflect over all the things that you've done. What we're doing now, because I'm like, ooh, Anthea's dope.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
I'm like, not oh wow, you should know that. Yes, girl, you dope. I'm like, for me, I've done I've accomplished a lot in my life, lots of things. But I sometimes dumb myself down because a lot of the people, a lot of people that are around me haven't accomplished what I've accomplished or as much.
Right.
And then, then you sound like you're bragging, or you feel like you're bragging, or you feel like, it's so many things that come in. So then sometimes you quiet yourself, or when you do talk about things that you kind of pull back because you're like, oh gosh, they probably think I'm talking about this again. But it was my life. So
Right.
to hear someone else, I'm like, oh, you've done some things there.
Thank you so much. It's so funny that you kind of like have to dumb yourself down, or if you feel like you are comfortable to speak around it, and then you get feedback like, oh, I don't want to hear about that again. I'm like, well, I mean, I gotta hear about you and your husband and your kids and your 11 kids and your
cheating man, or that you keep taking back 75,000 times. I still listen to you.
And I listen to that, but I think it's just because of the content. People don't want to, or they don't, because you know what? A lot of people don't expect things from me, right? So if your expectations are low, because of whatever, then you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear about the wins. You want to hear about the losses.
I don't want to hear about no more losses of people. I mean, I asked the question, but most of the losses into a win anyway, so it's a different kind of loss.
Right.
But I get the losses that you're talking about, like the woe with me.
Yeah. No,
I'm like,
exactly.
girl, you still in that? You're not going to get up out of that? Because the only person who can get you out of that is you. I don't want to hear about it no more. Goodbye. Goodbye. And it's not being mean, but as I elevate in my life and as I dream bigger, it makes I call it being allergic to average. So I'm getting more. My allergy to average is getting in more intense.
Wow.
And I want to be surrounded by people who dream, who want to do, who and it's not necessarily about having, because it's not. When I was younger, it was definitely more about having, but my mentality was different. It was about, who had the latest and the greatest and the designer and the this. And I mean, that's what the world is now. And I definitely have contributed a little bit to that. So I kind of just be quiet on the place until I do something to change. But at the end of the day, it's like, I want to be around people who inspire me to want more, to do more, who encourage me, who are, coming in to do my podcast and giving me their time, because I'm not paying my guests. My guests come because they want to be here. And that's more meaningful than anything. I take the time more than anything, because you don't got to give me a Saturday. You driving, it's rain, the rain, the traffic. Oh, so I'm appreciative. Very, very, very much so.
But I'm happy to be here.
And it's just, being surrounding myself with people who have dreams like how I have dreams, and who are aspiring to have their dreams, who believe that the things that they're saying are actually going to happen, because you've already been in situations where things have happened for you. So it's like to sit across from me and hear you tell you on Hot 97 and you're doing this and you're a nurse. You don't hear people who are nurses say that's who I am. Nursing is who I am, not just what I do. If you ever had someone in the hospital, you could always tell the nurses who love nursing and the nurses who are there for the money. Those are the ones that they know I'm coming, because when my grandmother was in the hospital for a long period of time, I always knew the nurses who saw me coming, who were like, oh God, here she comes. Those were the nurses who were there for the money, and the ones that were letting me know that, oh no, we already changed your grandmother, because if I went in that room and I smelled her, they knew I was coming out too. I don't care what you're doing. Come and get her now. Not sitting in here smelling. Get it now.
But nurses need to also, with anything, we just need to know when to exit stage left, right? We just need to know after a while. You don't want to keep doing it until you get to that point where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, and you start hating your job. Just with anything, right? With any profession, you don't want to stay in something if it's not fulfilling you anymore, or if you feel like you have something else to offer. See, I felt like I had something else to offer, so I started applying to different jobs. And I was like, okay, you know what? Let me see if I could do this. Let me see if I could do that. They don't need a nurse, but it would make sense for a nurse to be in it. And we bonded over television. Because I worked for Disney Television as the head of health and safety. And that was like a whole new experience, okay? I did not understand what a grip to a gaffer to a nothing was. I was like, what? What is this? What is rolling? I was like,
it's
what?
a whole nother
Wait,
world.
what? I was working Walt Disney Television for FX and Hulu and the shows on that station. And it was just like, this is not like this is a whole different world. You know, you just walk somewhere and you just feel like you stupid. Like you just like, wait a second, I'm a nurse, but I don't know anything about anything.
I mean, when I transitioned from music into television, it was a transition for me too, because I'm like, all right, it's a whole nother language. It's a whole nother language. I'm always in someone's way. I'm like, what does that mean? Watch. Oh, I need to see someone walking with poles. I'm like, oh, that means get the hell out the way. It's just so much things, the dynamic of there's always something moving. There's always a moving part. There's some new word. You're like, martini.
What is that?
What?
I was like,
they're like,
martini.
Are they about to serve
what?
drinks?
Wait.
I remember the first time I heard that. I'm like, martini.
That's me.
I know. I'm like,
that was me.
I don't know what's going on. What does that mean? I'm like, martini.
That was me. I was like, I had someone who was helping me, but I also was Googling everything. I would Google like, what is this? What is this? What is that? What does hot brick mean? What is like what does that mean?
Well, at least you were smart about it, because you like, can I have a hot brick? I always know the PAs who are like new, like, oh, I know you just got here. Like, you are 2 days in. A hot brick is a battery for the walkie. Do you have one? No.
I didn't know. See, that
no,
was
it is.
me.
It's a different world. And listen, for me too, because I'm like, all right, I gotta put her shoe on. I never do that before. I'm like, all right,
Wow.
I gotta chase this person around with a coat, and it's like things that I did before, but not for so many people. So it's like, it is. So that's courageous of you, just in all, to be like, I'm a nurse, I'm gonna try something new, and I'm gonna go into a totally different. You jumped in a whole, you just came out the lake, jumped into the ocean.
Yeah. 'Cause they were like, you talking about, you want to be a set medic? I'm like, no, I want to be the head of a department. I'm going to be the head of health and safety. And they were like, wait, you worked in front of the camera, but you've never worked behind the camera. You don't even I didn't even understand set life. I didn't know that they build sets. I thought they were using everybody's houses. I was like, wait a second, this is a set. So it was just but I know that experience, along with the Breakfast Club, along with Dr. Oz, along with Healthy You Now, working with Tanya Lewis-Lee, all of those experiences are moving me to my goal.
What's the goal?
Well, I thought, because, it changes, right? It can change. What you thought you wanted to do at 11, you're not doing at 25, and you're not doing at 45. So I thought I wanted to be the Oprah of health, right? I was like, I'm going to be the Oprah Winfrey of health. But now I think I just want to get stories out to the public that are impactful health stories so that they can understand. Not Dr. Google, not WebMD, but just understand from a healthcare professional's point of view. Still for television. I still want to work in television, but I want to work on some more hard-hitting news. Yeah, so that's what I want to do. And also get my story out so people can understand colon cancer.
You were a colon cancer survivor and a
sexual assault
survivor. Which are two very different spectrums, but so many people have experienced those things. So how have you used these things to spread your story?
So, all right, go to sexual assault because it happened first. I was young, 23, new nurse, naive, church girl. We grew up in a church. We grew up church girls, not understanding street life or street, etiquette at all. So I didn't know you go to a man's house at 11:30 in the night, that what are you doing going to a man's house 11:30 in the night? I had the greatest movie that the greatest movie ever made, The Usual Suspects. That's my favorite movie. And I had it on VHS tape, and I'm like, you know what? Come watch this movie. He's like, come over and watch it. I'm like, okay, it's 11:30. All right, I'll be there in like 20 minutes. So I'm driving, and I'm like excited. I got my videotape in my hand, and I go to his go to his house and we're watching a movie. I'm at the edge of the bed and he's in the back. He's at the headboard. And so, you know what? I'm going to read a sentence because I'm going to read one line because
And what are we reading one line from?
we're reading from Help Me to Help You While I Help Myself in the Process, the book that I wrote in 2017. And it chronicles a lot of stuff, but it's, let me get my old lady glasses on. Okay, just a sentence. Still cognizant of my surroundings, I focused more on each line, becoming totally enthralled by the film. With peripheral hearing, I faintly hear the rip of a wrapper and was excited. But as inviting as I thought it was, the thought of Skittles, Starburst, or even Snickers seemed, the movie demanded all my attention. He reclined as he drank Hennessy straight from the bottle. He offered me a sip. I declined. I don't drink, and I still don't drink to this day. So when he was ripping the wrapper, I'm thinking it's Skittles, Starburst, Snickers, and it was a condom. And that night when I was sexually assaulted, I suppressed it. I didn't remember it for 14 years. I didn't remember it until my friend brought it up. And I realized that it was not as uncommon as I thought it was. 1 in 6 women will be a survivor of sexual assault. 1 in 6 in the United States. Those statistics are alarming. You know, you think of the Me Too movement, you think of, people just amplifying the situation, but it's real and it happens more times than not. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of those women are going to be a survivor. And we don't say victims, we say survivors. So after the 12 years, it actually prompted me to become a sexual assault nurse examiner, a SANE. I'm a nurse. I didn't know that we existed.
You're saying that. I'm like a SANE.
Okay. So a SANE is a nurse who does more schooling to do forensic studies in sexual assault. And I took the course at Rutgers University, and it was cathartic. It was like, you know what? It's helping me to help someone else, but it's also helping me in the process. And it's shameless plug for my book. But you know
We
what?
don't shameless plug. You plug whatever you want because we're going to make sure everyone knows where the book is and how to get it.
So I was like, okay, I didn't know it existed. I'm in trauma ICU working at UMDNJ, and a woman comes in, unconscious, on life support, vaginal bruising, anal bruising, panties around her ankles, concussion, her head, part of her skull is fractured. Someone beat her in the head, and she had heroin and cocaine in her system. And they found her in an abandoned building. And I'm like, wait a second, so I see these 2 women come in, they're like, don't worry, we're with the district attorney's office, but they're nurses. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And so they were blue light, they're, checking black light, they're checking for semen, checking under their nails, some CSI shit. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I want to, this is what I want to do. It's helping women, but it's also helping me deal with the pain that I suppressed for 13, 14 years. And it's also just being able to talk about it and to let people know if you are sexually assaulted, there are nurses and there are personnel in the emergency room, if you go, that will treat you for STIs, sexually transmitted infections, and we give them antiretrovirals. For viruses, we give them antibiotics. For bacterial infections, we offer them counseling. And we just talk to them. We try to be objective and, neutral, but it's a way that you can help, not only women, but men also, ages 13 and up, because 13 and below, a whole other
It's crazy
nurse.
that you even have to say that there's, groups of, nurses for below 13 years old. The world.
So when I hear like all the stuff that's going on now in the news, with famous people sexually assaulting, being sexually assaulted and also sexually assaulting, it's triggering. It is very triggering. But I'm just glad that we're here to help, and we work for the district attorney's office. I don't do it anymore, but when I did it, it was so fulfilling. It was a good thing. Now, colon cancer. I was 25, so. 25. I was on Broadway and 45th. I was at the Bad Boy Entertainment offices on 44th Street, and I had the most excruciating hemorrhoidal pain that you could ever feel. right? And I was just like, I had hemorrhoids since I was 6, right? So that was a part of my life, right? So I was like, I gotta go to the doctor. I have to get this taken care of. And I remember I didn't even go in the building. I took myself and I went right back home. And I said, I drove into the city and went right back home. Looked in the yellow pages. Remember the yellow pages?
I do.
Remember the yellow pages? Looked for doctors in my area and went to the doctor. He did a flexi-sigmoidoscopy in the office, which is they just take a tube and they look, into your rectum. And he says, I see some polyps. I'll take them off. We'll do a hemorrhoidectomy, but I'll do a colonoscopy too. And I'm like, okay. Did the colonoscopy, and 2 weeks later came back. Pathology report said carcinoma. And I know Nurse Noel knows cancer. I'm like, oh my gosh. My mom was with me, and I can't believe at 25 years old, I'm dealing with colon cancer. My dad died at 43 from colon cancer. We dealt with cancer in the family. I saw my great aunt had colon cancer. Uncle Desmond had cancer. Like we saw so much cancer, but it was just like older people. Like that's not, that ain't me.
Think that it would happen to you.
Right? Especially, when I'm at Justin's on top of the table, I'm at Club Cheetah. I'm sitting there like, this is not my life. But it brought me closer to God, right? It brought me closer to God. I became vegetarian, and I tell my story.
I mean, it's important because we all think that cancer happens to people that are older, or, we don't think 25. 25? Like, that's intense, because we don't. Like, I have an aunt who is a survivor of colon cancer, and I also have a great aunt that passed away from colon cancer. My aunt was, I don't think she was in her 50s, so she wasn't that old, and my great aunt was in her 70s, so she was older, so it was kind of a spectrum, but it wasn't 25. Like, you just don't think, at 25, you don't think that anyone should be getting sick. You think you're at your healthiest when you're 25. We're
invincible. What?
Right?
We're getting in at 4 and getting up at 6 to go to work. Like that wasn't my life, but I thank God for hemorrhoids, right? You always say, well, like, what did I get from it? If I didn't have hemorrhoids, I wouldn't have gone and seen that I had colon cancer.
Went to the doctor?
Never. Yeah. No, not to get a colonoscopy, not at 25.
Yeah, definitely.
So I caught it in stage 0. Like, the hemorrhoids saved my life. Like, that's just like, when you look at it, you're like, everything happens for a reason. God put something. I was listening to the sermon today, and that's exactly what he said.
Everything is supposed to be for our good. Even if it's not for our good at the time, it's going to be for your good down the line. When you really sit down and reflect about all the stuff that you've been through. I mean, I do all the time. I dodge so many bullets with these guys, and I'm like, ooh, God, thank you that you didn't give that one to me, or give me what I wanted when I was wanting to do this and that and this, because, ooh. I'm like, ooh, and I remember when I was crying like a baby, heartbroken, and I had to pull myself up and say, now you looking, you're like, oh, shoot, was that me?
Yes.
That would have been my life? Oh, Lord, thank God.
I know. But you always ask, like, and years later, in my 30s, I end up being engaged to someone with colon cancer.
Dag, so this is your third time.
And I was just like, this is not, like, what? Like, who does this? Like, this is not life. Like, this is, he was a music industry, a Def Jam exec, right? And I'm like, I feel like my mother. You're dealing with the emotional abuse. You're dealing with taking care of a man. You're going through the same cycle as my mother. I'm going through the same cycle as myself. I'm going the same cycle as my father. And it's like, wow, history is repeating itself. But this time, right, they say hindsight is always 20/20. This time I know how to deal with it. I know what to expect, and I know how to deal with it.
So was that helpful in you dealing with your fiance?
Yeah, definitely. Seeing what my mom went through, so I expected the anger. I expected the name calling. I expected the verbal abuse. I expected that. I also expected him being fearful. I expected him being scared, being a scared little boy that just was afraid of dying.
I mean, shoot, I couldn't say I wouldn't be either.
So I would say God does not make any mistakes.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
So now I couldn't have Nurse Noel here and not ask you a very nursey question. I'm going to ask something that I did. So I'm in my early 40s, and Halle Berry I follow her on Instagram. She has been doing some talks about perimenopause, and I am like, oh, perimenopause. What? I'm like, I know menopause. I mean, I didn't really get to experience menopause with my mother because she had a hysterectomy early. So, you usually get the example from your mother or whatever, or whoever. So I don't really have that example. Or maybe my mother was going through it. We just didn't know. What is perimenopause? What should I expect? And what do I do so that I don't be going crazy on people if it's something hormonal? I don't want to be the crazy hormonal person because I feel like I've been going through this with people and we don't know. And I want to know.
So it's good to ask questions, right? Even with your friends, like, what are you dealing with? The older friends, the younger, perimenopause is simply what it means. Peri, around, and menopause. So it's around menopause. You're not in complete menopause, but you're like leading up to menopause. And what you're going to see is you're going to see irregularities in your cycle. You might get hot flashes. You might get weight gain. That weight gain around the belly is serious. You might see low serotonin levels, which is the happy neurotransmitter, and increase in melatonin, which is the one that, brings you a little down. When my mom was in menopause, it's so funny. She was so transparent with us. It was just a little bit too transparent. But she went on antidepressant medication because when she was going through menopause, it put her into her neurotransmitter levels got so wacky that she ended up being like clinically depressed. And the hot flashes, as I burn up right here, right now, as I have my fan in my bed. As my cousin put a fan
Listen,
in my
sometimes
bag.
I have fans sitting here, but for the question for me is like, what age? Like, what's the age for perimenopause?
There's no specific age. That's the thing. It's usually in your late. It could start in your late 30s. We see people with their cycles. Like my friend is 57 and still has a menstrual cycle, which is weird. I'm like, does this mean you could get pregnant? Like, what is?
I think that's what that
Yeah,
means.
that's what it, and I'm like, that's scary. But then you have people going into early menopause. Certain things, certain medication might put you into menopause, like
Probably this food. The food is all full of stuff and chemicals and this and that.
growth hormone.
Yeah.
What you see is a lot of like chemotherapy. Women who are going through chemotherapy, that sends them into menopause. What I started seeing, and I could be real transparent, was like my period was like 25 days. Then it was like 45 days. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. And the doctor was like, no, you're skipping one. I was like, wait, what? He was like, you're skipping one. And I was like, what does this mean? He was like, this means that if you want to have a kid now, you better start with the IVF because you might not, it just might not happen. And it didn't happen. I had fibroids, so I got a myomectomy. I took the fibroids out. So I just realized, that wasn't in the cards for me. But these hot flashes, they call it vasomotor.
Describe a hot flash because we always hear people say, "Oh, I'm having a hot flash. I'm having a hot flash." I mean,
baby.
maybe I have them at night when I wake up dripping, soaking wet. But I don't know. So
I haven't gotten to that point. It's just hot in my face. Like I'll just get a whoosh, like hot, and I'm like, was that a hot flash, or I'm just hot? And I was just telling my cousin tonight, I'm not. It's not a hot flash. It's not a hot flash. I'm just hot.
That's a gush of pretty when it hits you in the face. That's like a
no
extra pretty.
Not like 200 degrees in your face. Like it's hot. Like it's just like I can't describe it. I don't know how to describe it. But it's
200 degrees in the face means you're hot. We get it. That's the good description.
But some people get it like all over their bodies. Some people wake up sweating. They get night sweats. It's just like I think I don't get hot flashes now often. But like last year it was like a little hot flash. For every few days. Now it's a little, then it got a little more frequent, then it just stopped. Like your body is just like, trying. It's like it's trying to go into menopause. We're trying. And it's like, okay, maybe something will happen. You might have some eggs that, say, let me just drop. Let me drop this month. Let me drop, let me not drop in the 2 months. And then let me drop like in 4 months. But it's just your body trying to get into that state of not having any more eggs and not being able to reproduce anymore.
So now, are there some things that that we should be doing as far as like working out or making sure that we're eating certain things or vitamins or what can help us ease into this trend? I mean, because the transition is going to happen, but what can help us to ease into the transition, or what things should we start to keep track of or pay attention to know that okay, maybe this is what this is?
Keep track of your cycle. Keep track of the consistency of your vaginal fluids, because then that usually dictates whether you're ovulating or not. Alcohol exacerbates hot flashes, to be honest with you. So if you drink, some people when they don't drink, they don't experience any hot flashes, or they're lessened. But we do know medically, evidence-based practice, that alcohol does exacerbate hot flashes. For the midsection, because of the low estrogen, because your estrogen levels are getting lower, exercise more. I mean, I tried, but I'm going to be honest. This exercise, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, my cousin will exercise every morning, and I'm like, I can't do it. I'm like, I don't have the, and I think that's a lot of it is my mental. I'm getting to that depressive state where I'm like, I don't want to do this, And also seasonal affective disorder. Like, the winter blues is real, right? So less sun, more depressed, right? So I'm going to try.
See,
Or
for
get
me,
some
like
liposuction, something.
my sister is a very athletic person she goes to the gym, she hikes, she pushes me to do more. I was also pre-diabetic, and I didn't really take it serious the first year, and I went back the second. My doctor told me what I needed to do, and I went back the second year, and she's like, your numbers are still the same. And I'm like, I know, because I didn't do anything that you told me. And I was like, it's not nothing else I could say. I know I didn't do anything that you told me. And when we were on strike, now I have time to sit with myself. Now I have time to look at myself. I'm not getting dressed at 3:00 in the morning. So, I'm in my house. I'm like, ooh, girl, this is not it. My knee was hurting. I went to the doctor. They said I have arthritis in the knee. And I'm like, Mia, come on now. But first of all, you up and down stairs all day. Your arm, this has to work. So for me, it was like, okay, reality check. You're overweight by what doctors saying, not like, obese or anything, but that little bit of weight affected my hips. It affected my knees. It affected like my balance. So for me, going to the gym, it's hard, like to just going to the gym, getting up and going to the gym. It's not my favorite thing to do, but what I started doing, I would start walking, and I would put my headphones on. I would listen to a podcast, a audio, and I would go and I would walk from my house to the Lincoln Tunnel, and I would have on a cute little outfit, so I would feel cute, and I would just walk, or I would go to this area off the Palisades, and I would run 2 miles, and it didn't feel like I was running because it's such a serene and beautiful place, and I would put my headphones in and run, and then midway do my jumping jacks, and I mean, just being outside, it was great, and it wasn't anything that I ever thought about. I could go with my hair twisted, and I knew my hair wouldn't be like crazy because I'm outside. But the weight fell off, and when I went back for my physical, my doctor was like, oh my gosh, what did you do? Did you fast?
Wow.
And I'm like, no, I just went outside. Like, I did what you told me to do, and it worked, because I was just like pre-diabetic. You don't think about how serious that is until you realize, like, ooh, that means that when the plane is on the runway for a long time and people got to get their bag because their medicine is in their bag, I'm going to have to put the light on. That's going to be me.
Right.
I don't want that to be me. Nothing against the people who need their
Amongst
medicine,
other things,
but I don't want that to be me.
Yeah, my mom was diabetic, and it affected every system in her
My
body.
grandmother's on dialysis. She can't travel, can't go nowhere. Now I don't want to have any health ailments. I want to be healthy. I want to be able to, I just want to be healthy. Like, that's it. So I wasn't playing. And then now I can fit into my old jeans. That'd be a goal for us women, to be in our old jeans. And I want to stay in those old jeans because I don't want my knee to hurt. I don't want my hips to hurt. Even that little bit of pain, it's like, I'm not that old, but I'm like, hello, people who are older than me, Aisha, and my other friends who are older than me who don't tell me about the things, my mother, or I'm like, guys, hello, my hair falling out because of hormones. Y'all don't why? Hello, how come y'all don't share these things with us?
Those knees hurting from all them years of being on top of the tables at the clubs. That's what the knees are hurting.
And the heels, I know. But at the end of the day, if we don't tell them, the younger girls ain't gonna know. They wearing sneakers now, so they're not gonna have all the problems that we have.
Oh yeah,
Okay, because sometimes I be like, oh my God, the pain in the back. I'm like, now you ain't ever played no sports, but standing on the table in 6-inch heels, that is a sport.
That is, yes.
Okay, standing on a couch in 6-inch heels is a sport.
Yes.
Okay,
it's not for the weak. It's not for the weak. So primary prevention. So that's what primary, secondary, tertiary prevention, that's what we try to push. Primary is before you even get any ailments, right? What can you do to prevent the ailment, whether it's through diet, whether it's through exercise, lifestyle changes, behavior modification. So that's primary prevention, smoke cessation, things like that. Secondary prevention would be like screening, right? So I'm going to get a screening. I'm going to get a mammogram. I'm going to go get an EKG, check my heart. I'm going to go get any type of test, right? And tertiary prevention would be when you already have the disease, what treatments you take to lessen the symptoms or reverse it. So we focus on primary prevention. We focus on not the screening, but things that we can do to prevent us from even getting sick, whether it be drinking more water, exercising as you did, right? Changing or getting more fruit and vegetables in our diet, cutting down on the red meat and the, certain meats and certain foods and certain things, sugar, lessening the sugar, refined sugar and things like that. So what you're doing, you're on the path, you're on the right path. You're on the right path.
Okay.
You're on the right path. I mean, we all are work in progress, right? I am still addicted to sugar.
Oh, good. Then I'm glad I didn't bring these amazing Earl Grey croissants that someone treated me to the day before yesterday. Then I went and bought a bunch. So I'm glad I didn't bring them today.
Still
addicted. I won't bring them to you.
But we're all a work in progress, right? We just gotta, it's scary because people don't want to do, you don't want to go to the doctor. You don't want to go to the doctor all the time. Okay, well, do your self-breast examination, right? You don't want to sit in the doctor's office all the time. Well, then do right. You're not supposed to be doing what you're doing. That it's not like a scolding, like I'm telling you, like shaking your finger, but it's also like if you know better, then you'll do better.
Yeah.
So that's just with anything, right? Women are susceptible to everything, especially Black women. We're on the top of every single list of everything, of every ailment. It's very scary, so heart disease, breast cancer, just everything. So we have to be a little more cognizant in like taking our health in our own hands. The marketplaces, when the marketplace is open, I'm like yelling it at the marketplace is the insurance for like Obamacare, right? So when it's open, I'm telling people go sign up for insurance because you never, you don't want to use the emergency room as a primary care facility.
Going when you absolutely have to because you can't walk now. Or,
exactly.
So, yeah. So what is next for the Nurse Noel?
Oh, what is next? Well, I have a company, NHS, Noel Health Solutions. I started it during the pandemic, and we're doing health programs for sports leagues, sport teams. We're doing something for UC Berkeley. We have a program that we do with the Hawks, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Miami Heat. So just doing health programs and coming out with my children's book, The Adventures of Liz and Abe, health stories for little kids based on my niece and nephew who are 12-year-old twins, but these twins are 4-year-olds. They're 4-year-olds and they're, little kid health drama, skinning their knee, don't want to go into the dentist, things like that.
Okay, that's cool.
And re-releasing my book, adding 2 new chapters, one about my mom, about having to do CPR and the importance of learning how to do hands-only CPR, just for everybody. I think everybody needs to learn that. We learned with Damar Hamlin from the Bills, right? And little Bronny, LeBron James' son, that when you do CPR, like when you perform CPR urgently, it saves lives, right? It didn't save my mother's life, but it prolonged her life enough for my brother to come and say his goodbyes. So I thank God that I was able to perform that. Yeah.
So as we're about to close out, I ask, what is your biggest win and what is your biggest loss? And there is no timeline. It could be for the day, the hour, your life. You put the timeline on it. But what do you feel is your biggest win and your biggest loss?
My biggest loss, my mom, and time. I have so much wasted time. I wish I could have been more productive with the time that I had. And moving forward, I'm trying to be productive. I mean, I still go home and still lay in the bed and watch Law and Order marathons all day.
But that's needed. Like sometimes that's
not
needed.
Every day.
This might be the season that you need. You don't know, that show might be inspiring something in you to now do something else. There's a season for everything, and we beat ourselves up when we go through the seasons of I need to rest, or I need to rest my mind, or this is what I want to do at the time. Like, you've accomplished a lot. You could take a break and binge watch Law and Order, because when I feel like I need to do nothing, like for me, I'm a worker. I've been working since I was 12. I just work. It's just what I do. And if I'm not working, I'm going to find something to work on, or I'm going to create something to work on. I'm a worker. So when the pandemic happened, that taught me how important time was. It taught me, like, all right, now it's nothing for you to do. There's nothing for you to work on. Sit down. And I had to sit down. And then, you go back and you after the world opened back up and I started again, I feel like I got right back into the same thing that I promised myself I wasn't going to do. And then the strike happened.
Right.
And then when the strike happened, it was like, okay, now I get it. Okay, I get it. I get it. So during the strike, it's like I worked on things. I worked on me. I took time to rest. I took time to, just go and sit outside in the park. I took walks. I hiked with my sister. I challenged myself on things. I read books. It was important for me. And I could have been working because, everyone was doing the indie films and they're this and they're that. And, I have a pilot that I wrote with episodes. I could have been working on that. I had the best people at my disposal to do things. Not to say that I didn't do anything, because this podcast was birthed from the strike. And I was able to grab some great people to help me be part of it. And some still are. So I'm very thankful for that. But for the most part,
so Law and Order is okay.
Yeah,
Law and Order
watch
marathon. And Chicago PD.
You're about to be real busy. Whatever it is that you're about to do is gonna have you so busy you're not gonna be able to do that. So enjoy that season. It's like me. I'm in my singleness. I enjoy sleeping across my bed. I enjoy doing all the things that single people do, because I know that the season is gonna end, and then I'm gonna be like, oh gosh, why is he underneath me? Or I'm going to be underneath him, because I want to be a cuddly cat all day long. That's not my thing, but I want it to be my thing. So, at the end of the day, don't beat yourself up for doing what you want. You enjoy Law and Order, right? That's someone talent. That's my world. Yeah. Thank you for watching those shows and keeping me at work. Okay? So watch the show.
My biggest win, forgiveness, probably.
That's a good one.
Forgiving others and asking for forgiveness from others. So both are hard, right? I don't know which one is harder, but I know both of them are very, very difficult, because I've done some real shiesty shit to people, and some people did some shiesty shit to me. So it's very like, okay, you know what? If God could forgive me for the stuff that I've done, not only to people but to myself, right? Then it should be easy to ask for forgiveness, or it should be easy to forgive others.
Learning forgiveness is what brought me to peace, because I was able to release people from things, and in releasing them was able to recognize my part, because there's a cause and effect to everything. And I mean, some things do happen to you, but at the end of the day, I'm not holding on to it, because to me, unforgiveness is like me drinking the poison and expecting you to die from it. The only person that affects is me.
Right.
So when I started releasing people from the things that I've done, also knowing that I've done lots of things too, it just gave me a certain sense of peace. So learning forgiveness and having to ask for forgiveness and forgiving people that I swore I would never forgive. I mean, my father, I had to forgive my father on his deathbed. I didn't get the opportunity to have the conversations. And at that point, when I knew that I would never see him again, nothing mattered. But I needed to let him know, like, I forgive you for everything that you've done, so that he could go away with a clear mind. Well, regardless if he could hear me or not. I mean, I do believe that he could hear me, regardless if he could say anything back to me or not. When I left that hospital, I left with such a sense of peace, because there was nothing holding me like, oh, God, I'm so angry at him. I mean, it's like at this point, all right, you're good, because it's nothing that we could do at this point. So I could leave here and hold on to it. But forgiveness was definitely something that I have to do every day, every single day. It's not, in the Bible it says, how many times you forgive? 7 times 70. Exactly. Yep. 7 times 7, whatever it is, 77 or whatever the number is, meaning infinitely. So every day I'm like, ooh, this person cut me off. Let it go.
When and forgiving ourselves.
That part.
Because I'm like,
we're not perfect.
We're hard on ourselves. Like, I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't do this right. I didn't want, I should have done this. I should have been better at this. I should have, like, forgiven yourself for being you, like, and just unapologetically. So that's my biggest win.
Well, those are great. So please share with everyone your Instagram, your book, the children's book. When is that coming out, and anything else that you have going on? And, just let everybody know where they could find Nurse Noel.
Okay, you can find Nurse Noel at, official Nurse Noel. That's my Instagram. DM me, please. Not like my cousin, all those memes, but DM me some. DM me some. DM me.
I talk in memes. My whole conversation is all memes.
Wait, I send you memes, so that means we go together. I saw that. I was like, what? That means I go with my yes. Okay, so official Nurse Noel children's book, The Adventures of Liz and Abe, is going to come out this spring. Follow me on official Nurse Noel to find out. Like, I will be, giving you dates, and I'm going to re-release the book this spring also. Help me to help you while I help myself in the process with 2 new chapters.
Ooh, okay, good. So we got things to look forward to, and hopefully I'll get you to come back and we could do some other. We'll get a bunch of questions because now that I'm getting older and things are happening, I'm like, oh God, I need to know this. What is happening? Why is this changing? Why is this dry? Why is this falling out?
Why is everybody on Ozempic?
Yeah. Why is I didn't know where gray come wherever hair is. To see, these are the things I need to know, and I'm sure there's lots of people who want to know the things that I want to. So we'll definitely have you come back, and we'll do a whole. Have people just send in questions of all the things that they want to know that they are kind of embarrassed to ask their doctor. I mean, I'm not really embarrassed to ask my doctor anything. You got to dig in there, so I might as well ask you about it. So but some people are not like me, so we're just gonna we're gonna figure this out, but it's gonna all work out. But I am so appreciative of you coming and giving me your time, because as we get older and we realize how important time is, I'm more appreciative of the time. And I just hope and pray that someone is touched by your story.
Thank you.
And that all we do is evolve, and we'll just keep going up and keep climbing, and who knows where we'll be next. Maybe we'll be in your studio. Right?
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, as I always say, click like and subscribe, rate, follow, watch last season, and continue supporting and watching. Appreciate you guys. And thank you. Peace. Hey, everyone. It's your girl, Mia Quinn Maddox. And this is New and In Between.